From arts to literature,
From theories to research,
this is your school from home. EDUC
EDUC
Talks. We make learning happen.
Isn't it another pleasant day to talk about education, Elle?
Truly, Jel, despite being at home, our viewers really took time to message us their questions about our posted topic, literacy across the curriculum.
That's right, Elle. Till now, I can see many questions popping on our page. So, why don't we read some?
First, what is literacy across the curriculum?
Second, why is literacy across the curriculum important?
Third, why is literacy across the curriculum important in middle school?
Fourth, what does an effective literacy program look like?
Lastly, what are the characteristics of an effective literacy program?
So, I guess we can talk about it.
Let's start learning.
So, literacy across the curriculum. What is literacy across the curriculum? So, literacy across the curriculum means that students are learning literacy skills while learning other content areas like math, science, social studies, art, and music. So, it requires children and young people to have skills which enable them to interpret and compose text across different disciplines. So next, why is literacy across the curriculum important? So literacy across the curriculum is important because learning in any subject area requires the use of language. Therefore, reading and writing are used as tools for learning that subject area. So connecting literacy learning to other areas reinforces learning in all areas. So developing literacy through other subjects is linked with improving students' depth of understanding and achievement. There is no question that reading, writing, speaking, and listening are interconnected skills that develop synergistically. So they are also the key to teaching and thinking. So the more fluent students become as readers, writers, speakers, and listeners, the clearer, more coherent, and more flexible their thinking will become.
So, in addition to Jevy's discussion, reading transcends the mere transmission of information. It fosters an imaginative dialogue between the text and the reader's mind that actually helps people to think. One of the advantages of reading is that it engages various parts of your brain. When you read, you exercise your comprehension abilities and your analytical abilities. It fires up your imagination and stimulates the memory centers of your mind. It helps you recall information as well as stabilize your emotions. Learning to read is critical to a child's overall well-being. If a youngster does not learn to read in a literacy-driven society, hope for a fulfilling, productive life diminishes. Reading is an essential life skill, and so it is an integral part of an educational system. Much more with the increase of the use of technology in day-to-day life, reading has become a prerequisite. Making kids efficient in reading is making them increase their chances of learning different things simultaneously. It improves their brain functions and theory of mind, increases and widens their knowledge, enhances their vocabulary, develops their comprehension or understanding of a certain topic, and sharpens their memory. Studies have also shown that kids who are introduced to read at an early age have a well-developed brain, and those who are deprived of reading at an earlier age encounter difficulties at their later life. Now, this next slide, we'll get to see the historical view of reading. In the first column, there is the research base that includes the goals of reading, the reading as a process, and the learner role or metaphor. In the second column, you can see the traditional views of reading in terms of behaviorism. And the last column, depicts the new definitions of reading in terms of the cognitive sciences or the cognitive aspect. The first one, the goal of reading in its traditional view, focuses on the mastery of isolated facts and skills. This has almost always been under attack as being insufficient and defective for the main reason that it relies on the formal features of the language and facts, such as words and its structure. On the other hand, the goal of reading in the new definition focuses on constructing meaning and self-regulated learning. This implies that cognitively based views of reading emphasize the interactive nature of reading and the constructive nature of comprehension. Next is the reading as a process. Its traditional view focuses on mechanically decoding words, memorizing it by rote. Reading in this view is basically a matter of decoding a series of written symbols into their oral equivalents in the quest for making sense of the text. Now, its new definition states that there is an interaction among the reader, the text, and the context. This means that reading is not merely on flipping pages and reading the letters and words, but the reader includes all the things that are actually involved into comprehension and the reading process to further understand the reading material. The last one is about the learner role or metaphor. Its traditional view implies that readers are passive, or in other words, the vessel receiving knowledge from external sources. Readers here are passive recipients of information in the text. Meaning resides in the text and the reader has to reproduce meaning. In contrast, its new definition tells that a reader is active, strategic reader, effective strategy user, cognitive apprentice. This view of reading is on the process of interpreting sensory data, in retrieving information from memory, in organizing goals and sub-goals, in allocating resources, and in guiding the flow of the processing system. In other words, the reader is active. Now this time, let's answer one of the questions that was raised earlier. Why is literacy across the curriculum important in middle school? Middle school students are required to read and understand information-heavy textbooks, especially in their middle school science and social studies classes. And it is also important for them to learn how to read a non-fiction book. Literacy across the curriculum requires the students to have literacy skills which enable them to interpret and compose texts across different disciplines. This involves teaching about how different language choices and patterns represent and document ideas and views of the world through a range of genres. It also requires developing a sense of the world and disciplinary knowledge, for example in science or in social studies. At this point, we will answer another question that was asked. What does an effective literacy program look like? First, effective literacy programs are those that do not exist in a vacuum. Effective literacy programs with teacher training provide teachers more resources and skills to deliver better learning outcomes. Having an effective literacy program helps teachers complete difficult tasks effectively. There should be a progressive temporal dimension to the learning where the child is supported by others to develop foundational skills which lead into competencies, which lead to mastery, which leads to further disciplinary practices. Second, teaching reading and writing skills must not be reserved solely for language arts classrooms. Literacy skills may be the focus in language arts classes, but they are equally necessary for math, science, art, music, and any other coursework. Students who cannot understand the material in a textbook may fall behind, which is particularly problematic in classes with information-dense textbooks like science. The ability to absorb and understand the content is an essential skill for every student, in every class. This makes incorporating literacy skills into every classroom necessary. And third, students need multiple opportunities to learn reading and writing strategies in a variety of class settings. The development of effective literacy program involves extensive participation and practice using component skills of reading and writing for particular purposes. Active learning engages students in learning, using activities such as reading, writing, discussion, or problem solving, which promote analysis, synthesis, and evaluation of past content. Now, for further discussion, let's hear from May Angel.
So our next question is, what are the characteristics of an effective literacy program? First off, it should be student-centered. A student-centered program emphasizes student choice and ownership of the learning process. As a result, they become responsible and independent learners. Next, it should respond to the learner's needs. A student should be given the program suited to their needs and weaknesses to help them improve. It could not be called effective if there is no progress. Next, an effective literacy program must include ongoing practices, example of which is regular inclusion of reading and writing activity. Also, it focuses on positive outcomes. Children needs a good reinforcement. Little achievements and progress must be appreciated and given recognition. Lastly, it must incorporate a variety of reading and writing strategies. We all know how people learn differently from the other, so it's important to have a variety of techniques, strategies, and methods of teaching. Children become more motivated to learn when they are presented with materials in an interesting and authentic manner. This means that topics of learning, whatever it could be, should be relatable and connected to things that are meaningful to the students. The topic areas could be trendy for their age, so it appeals to them, or connected to experiences they have outside as well as inside the school. In the end, we need to remember that literacy learning throughout the middle school curriculum is integral to producing literate and competent adults. As students get to see the importance of reading and writing, as their proficiency is valued in all subject areas, thus they are encouraged to become lifelong learners. Wow! It's always nice to talk about education even when we are at home, right, Elle?
Indeed, Jel. It's always fun learning about these things.
So, shall we call it a productive EDUC?
Precisely. From experiments to equations.
From arts to literature.
From theories to research.
This
is
your
School from Home.
And
EDUC
Talks.
Talks. We make learning happen. Till next time.